Hey everybody, how's it going? I want to talk to you guys about this Hurculiner bed liner here. Professional. This is the two-part mix kit. Comes with the hardener to mix it in the cup. Put it in 6.5 ounces. I sprayed this and had a friend help me out while I was doing this. And spraying this was easy. Went really, really fast. Prior to spraying it, it took forever, seemed like, to get this thing prepped and cleaned out. And I feel like I went, I don't know, a little too meticulous. Probably not, because it's a bed liner and it's all about prep. For anything, paint and bed liner, it's all about prep. So I sanded this whole thing down, and I've got another video. I showed you guys what sander and what sandpaper I was using, and a little wire wheel cup that I used on my drill, and used that in places. And then the sandpaper, I would fold it over best I could and go along the seam of stuff where I couldn't get the wire wheel into the very best. And then all along here, I hand sanded a bunch of this stuff on here just to get what the sander wasn't getting. But overall, I think it turned out really good. It looks nice anyway. But I got this kit from Amazon, where I get a lot of things. Amazon seems like here lately. But this says it's supposed to do an 8-foot bed. And I used all 4 in this one. Now I'm hoping that when I sprayed this, I actually got it on decently thick on the wheel wells over here, and then across this edge, because that's, most everything takes the immediate beating is right here on the edge. And I've sprayed a little heavy along the sides of the truck too. And then the front rail, I got a little heavy on that front up there. I think I initially used probably one whole bottle, because I tried to do the seams first, up and over and around and all of that, and under the rails on both sides and all that. I didn't make it. I got the underneath, some of the top, and then the underneath of that, and then around the seam and over. And I forgot to do that one on the first bottle. And I got in the front corners pretty good. And then I sprayed these out of the first bottle, or at least the one anyway. But right here, you can tell how thick I put it on there a little bit. It's not a very good example, but it's enough that I got into it with the plastic over there, and then I put my elbow in that corner up there so it looks a little bit off right there. Good thing is, if you got some acetone, it comes off somewhat. Just damp a little bit on the rag and wipe your elbow, it'll come off. But I used a hand cleaner to get the rest of it off. But this went fairly quick. Like I said, the prep work was what took the longest. I think I've got a couple of days in here just trying to be absolute 100% that there was no shiny spot nowhere in this bed before I did this. And then after it was all said and done, some spots got sanded down a little too far, and you could see the bare aluminum. So out of that, I got 2 of these cans of Rust-Oleum automotive primer, and specifically these because it bonds to aluminum. Because this is a Ford, and they're all aluminum now. So 2 cans. I got a little bit left in that can and the other one, just a little bit. Going over all the spots that was bare, covering the whole thing, the sides, the floor, the tailgate, all of that. And I've got just a little bit left out of between the 2 cans, and that worked out perfect. I picked up those 2 cans of that primer, the Ace hardware. I think it was about $9 a can. And this Hurculiner kit came off Amazon. I forget what I actually purchased it for. It was on sale. I think right now, some Black Friday deal they're going on. I think it's like 14% off. So I think it's $139 regular, and it's down to $120. I think that's what it's on sale for. But I sprayed it in here, and I think it looks pretty good. I'd seen a couple of videos where people had rolled it in, and they had talked about the roller breaking down and leaving clumps of the roller in the bed, and I decided 100% against that I was going to spray it. And I used the sprayer that came in the kit. Like I said, this is supposed to do an 8-foot bed, but I used all 4 bottles in this bed in the tailgate, and I most likely got it a little thick in other spots, but I tried to hit the hot spot areas with the thickest, like that front wall, the fender wells, and then back here on this tailgate piece. I think the last bottle I had left out of the kit covered the tailgate and to about right here, just back behind the fender well. That last bottle is all right here on this much of the bed, from here to down here. That's one bottle right here in that area, and then that gives you an idea where the other 3 went. And also, when you're doing this, every time you change a bottle, there'll be some left over in the bottle, and you can actually try and dump it into the next one. This looks, I don't know if you can tell it, but it was globbed up right here real bad. Was dumping from one into the other, and there wound up being so much left over from the one, it overflowed the one that I put on there, and had a little extra to spray in here to the end. I got most everything that I could sprayed out, and it's a little heavy right here on there, and that was part of it. When I was trying to spray the edges facing down, there's a bleed hole so air can come in when it's sucking the bed liner out of the can. There's a little hole, and when I turned it upside down, turned it over to spray the tailgate, the edge, it spilled out right there. So it's not that big a deal. And then that was just the overflow issue. But so far it's drying pretty good. It looks pretty good. It's still wet. If you can touch it very lightly, it'll get on your fingers. But I'm not going to touch this for a long time. I'm going to give it a good week before I throw anything back in here. The bed bolts, I taped those just so future access. I'm going to take some black spray paint and hit them so they kind of blend in. I don't know that it's going to matter because I've got a bed mat that's going to go right back in here too. Sounds a little redundant, but I like having that bed mat in there too. I could have just left it let alone with the bed mat, but I'd already had in mind doing this bed liner and doing a bed mat to help save, because you start throwing stuff in here, it'll dent the bed. You know, I prefer it not to get beat up as much as possible, because it's already been beat up from throwing stuff in here, and I loaded scrap metal in here before I put my toolbox in here. I've got gouges that went down the sides over there and over here and in the front of that head rail up there. I gouged this thing out pretty good with 2 loads of scrap metal, and some of the fenders, it's got some pretty good dents in there from throwing shit in there. But it worked out pretty well, I think. Y'all can let me know. I don't pay attention to none of that stuff right there, because one of these days that's going to be, I'm going to take all that stuff out in between there and scuff it down, and I'm going to get the can, spray the can bed liner in there. I originally wanted to strip it all out and then bed line the whole jamb and then the whole outside edge of the tailgate, but I didn't feel like getting that involved with tearing it completely down and doing that, so I just did the basic thing. And it was a learning experience trying to tape all this stuff off, and you can tell one side is cleaner than the other. it just it's a learning experience. This is the first one I ever done spray in that's actually, with an air gun spraying, not from a rattle can. Now, I've done rattle can before, as I explained in another video, where I didn't do any prep work to this. Not to this, but to an older pickup I had. I didn't do any prep work. I just swept it out with a broom, and then a week later, the whole damn area that I sprayed, it just peeled right off like a band-aid, just right off there. So this time I made sure that this wasn't gonna be like that same deal. I sanded the ever-loving crap out of this thing, and it looked like cedar in here, and then there was all kinds of bright aluminum. It looked really nice and patina look, but I was gonna make sure that this was 100% done right according to the instructions on there. And I did it how they said and used everything in the kit. Like there's not much left in that bottle. That's about all we got left in there. And then this is the little plastic kit, just a Scotch roll thing. You can find at Lowe's for painting your house or whatever. And this actually worked pretty well, draping it over the bedside and over the cab and all of that good stuff. It worked out pretty well. But this is so the box on here, when they're talking about spraying it, I don't know if you guys can see that. The lights is getting in the way. 60 to 90 psi. I set this to 50, and this is what it looks like at 50 psi. It comes out a little sputtery, and then you just kind of go across it, and it came out great. Looks good. If you are wondering if it had with the rubber chunks in it, there's a ton of rubber chunks in this. That stuff was bouncing out everywhere. It was all over my shirt, but it just brushed right off. But there's a ton of rubber product in this, so it should have pretty good grip. I'm hoping that it doesn't rip up or tear or scuff real bad. I'm hoping this lasts longer than the regular Hurculiner. I've seen where it fades out. I'm hoping this doesn't fade. But overall, the prep work was the hardest. The spraying it in was the easiest. And I'd say right in the middle, taping the truck off and putting the plastic on it, that was probably the next to hardest thing about this whole kit, was covering the truck. Spraying it, the first bottle, I ran out of the first bottle in like 5 minutes. Like, it went quick. And then the rest went quick too. But I had a friend stay and help me, and we knocked this out really quick. I sprayed it, and he mixed it for me and shook it and handed it over. That way I didn't have to stop too long, and we swapped bottles and then kept going. And it worked out really good. He was saying I was going faster than he could keep up. But it literally took no time to spray out all of those. If you're doing it by yourself, you're probably not going to get this sprayed in 20 minutes. Because I feel like that's about how long it took. 20 minutes tops to spray this in. Like I said, sprayed it at 50 psi with the gun that came in the kit. About 20 minutes to do it, maybe less. It was going by really, really quick. Like I said, the hardest part was doing the prep, getting it all cleaned out and made sure everything was not shiny and had a good surface to stick to. And then I went through with 2 cans of the primer, touched up all the bare metal spots, and made sure that was all good and dried in. And then taping everything off, and then spraying. Like it was really easy, but the part that made it the worst part about it was the cleanup, or not the cleanup, I'm sorry, the prep, doing the prep. getting that done, sanding everything down, getting in all the little crannies and nooks and lines and everything. The two hardest parts I had about doing this with sanding it down was where these little slats are for you putting your board in there, was right there underneath the four, and then the rail right here, and the fender well. That in between there, that was the two most difficult spots in the truck. The rest of it was pretty easy. The sander hit it pretty good. The little wire cup got it pretty good. But that was it. That was the hardest part, was doing the cleaning and getting it prepped. The spraying was the easiest. But like I said, I used all 4 bottles in this. It says it's for an 8-foot bed. You could probably adjust your pressure up so it wouldn't come out as thick, and you could probably do your 8-foot bed easy, but I wanted it to go on thick, so we went less than the recommended pressure on the box, and I put all 4 bottles in this area. But should have had one left over, but you know, I didn't have the air pressure turned up as high. And I did test it on a piece of cardboard to make sure that it was spraying out pretty good. And I said send it, so there it went. And there might be a couple of dark spots in here where you can tell where it's a little bit thicker, but it's drying pretty nice. And some of it looks like I didn't get it on very thick, but once you get out of the direct light of it, I mean, it's shiny. It's all get out everywhere. It looks really good. I couldn't be more happier with it. Other than the crap I messed up. Like up there touching that on that wall, and then over here on this side, and spilling some right here, and then when I turned it over and spilt some out there, trying to get the edge of the tailgate. But I mean, you live and learn. You know, do it for the first time. There's always a learning curve to it. But anyway, I hope this helps anybody that's interested in one of these. So far, I recommend it. Put in the time and the effort. Put in the elbow grease. Get it all cleaned out. During the whole process, I've sanded it, blowed it out with air. I've rinsed it out with water. I've re-sanded on it again and blowed it out with air, and then went with the wire wheel in there, and then sanded on it some more, and then wire wheeled it, and then blew it out with air, and then washed it out with soap and water, and then blew it out with air, let it dry real good, wiped everything down, primered it. There's a lot of work leading up to the 20 minutes of spraying. Can't tell you how fast that went. That went super fast. Oh, and this stuff does stink pretty good too, so if you're in an enclosed area, you're gonna start feeling pretty funny. Make sure you got some ventilation. If you're doing it outside, do it when it ain't windy. But really, I don't have any other tips. If you're first time doing it, it's a little bit of a learning curve, but get you a piece of cardboard, do a couple of spray runs, see if you want it that thick. Like I wanted it thicker, so I had it set at 50. You could go to the higher, and the bigger compressor you got or can use or whatever, the easier it's going to go. Or if you got just enough and you doing it by yourself, you know, a 30-gallon compressor will probably work just fine. Just don't have your air set so high, you know, put it down somewhere under 90, somewhere definitely between 60 and what they did, but I put it at 50, and I think it looks great. It should be on thick enough that I shouldn't have to worry about anything coming off, and I think I put in good enough prep work that shouldn't come out for no reason. If it does, I didn't do a good enough job prepping it, because this stuff is pretty nice. But anyway, I've probably rambled on long enough to just tell you about this bed liner. Anyway, thank y'all for watching, and y'all have a good one.